Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Today's story has us looking at one of the most intriguing years in all of crypto history. High-profile hacks, new projects launching, stablecoin and dApp fever, plus a hint of an upcoming bull market in the NFT or non-fungible token sector. All of this and a lot more, including the metaverse, was making its mark right about now. This is the story of crypto in 2019.
Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Go down your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. We're moving into the future, one block at a time.
The very best things in the blockchain world often get their starts in a bear market, and there's a good reason why. The easy money is long gone by then, so everyone left standing is often prepared for a long crypto winter in which the focus shifts from hype back to substance. So it should come as a little surprise then to learn that 2019 was a foundational year in crypto, one in which a lot of bricks were being laid. And this would all culminate in eventually triggering a massive bull market a few years down the road. But in 2019, the industry was very much in hangover mode, still recovering from the wild party that was the 2017 bull market. The previous year of 2018 was mostly about regulations and big businesses coming in to scoop up deals on the cheap while launching new projects. And while 2019 basically was a continuation of the bear market that was now firmly in grip of the industry, when looking back, we can see how important this year was in terms of helping things get back on track. It all started at the very beginning of the year in January when Coinstar announced they'd be accepting Bitcoin in their machines all across the United States. If you aren't familiar with Coinstar, these are the machines at the grocery store where you can dump a bunch of loose change into and get back some cash. Now, with Coinstar's strategic move to get involved in cryptocurrency, users could get Bitcoin back in return for their change. Pretty sweet deal, and a smart one too, considering this pretty much guaranteed a whole lot of new people would get introduced to cryptocurrency as they made their grocery runs across America. This is the essence of the bear market, with grassroots adoption building up slowly but surely. And it keeps building up until market sentiment shifts from extremely negative to overly positive, with the price soon following suit and beginning an upwards trajectory. Next up was Ethereum, with a massive update via the Constantinople rollout. After some delays, it was finally released on February 27th, and it introduced some pretty useful changes. Some of the biggest were reductions in gas costs for certain operations, along with improvements to the system that would help the eventual transition away from proof of work and over to proof of stake. This shift to proof of stake did eventually take place several years later, so we can safely say that this upgrade to Ethereum was pretty important in terms of helping it maintain its place near the top of the crypto mountain. Frankly, Ethereum could use all the help it could get right around now anyways, because the price of a single Ether was struggling to stay above $100 US during the first few months of the year. For what it's worth, Bitcoin wasn't faring much better either, trading in the $3,000 to $4,000 US dollar range. But while the top two coins from the blockchain world were struggling, someone from the traditional banking sector saw an opportunity to capitalize on the moment. On February 14th, none other than Jamie Dimon, the long-term vocal critic of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, had an announcement to make. JP Morgan had created their own US dollar-backed stablecoin called JP Morgan Coin or JPM Coin. How original. The currency would be used to instantly settle transactions between clients of their wholesale payments business. Retail investors may have been gun-shy about getting into crypto in a big way due to the crash that the industry had just gone through. But where one person sees a raging dumpster fire, another person sees opportunity. And JP Morgan, they were making their move. Also around this time, Litecoin, the digital silver to Bitcoin's gold, was making some news. The development team was now seriously considering differentiating Litecoin from Bitcoin by adding in a layer of privacy. Naturally, this got a lot of people's attention, and Mimblewimble, a privacy-focused protocol, was discussed as the leading candidate. This was yet more evidence that blockchain projects were looking to innovate themselves out of the bear market. In April, news of a completely different flavor hit the radar. Bitcoin had just reached an historic milestone, recording 400 million total transactions. The event took place on April 8th in block 570761. That is a lot of Bitcoin being sent around. And while the price wasn't currently reflecting it, this record was proof positive that the currency was trending in the right direction. With that being said, the price of Bitcoin did move back up into the $5,000 range in April, which is about as much of a reprieve from the constant downward pressure the market was experiencing as any cryptonaut could reasonably ask for. The focus for the month of May was commoditized by one entity and one entity alone, Binance, and it wasn't for good reasons either. On May 7th, they became the target and subsequently the victim of a rather nasty hack. Binance lost roughly $41 million at the time in a bold heist that saw the attackers use various tactics like phishing and viruses to gain access to numerous two-factor authentication codes and API keys. This allowed the digital thieves to withdraw around 7,000 Bitcoin from Binance's hot wallet. This high-profile act of villainy led to Binance establishing the SafeFu or Secure Asset Fund for users, which would see Binance allocate 10% of their trading revenue into a cold wallet to support future hacking events. In June, more small signs that the market was slowly but surely recovering could be seen. First off, Facebook, who had likely been paying close attention to what JP Morgan had done by throwing their hat into the cryptocurrency ring, decided to make their own entrance into the sector. On June 18th, they announced Libra, an ambitious project to create a stablecoin that would be backed by government-issued currency. And unlike JP Morgan with JPM Coin, Facebook decided to bring along some friends to help them out with their blockchain endeavors. They formed a consortium that included giants like Visa, PayPal, and Stripe. This was a pretty smart move on Facebook's part, because after all, what's the point of having a currency if none of the big payment processors were willing to accept it? The announcement immediately raised regulatory concerns given how big of a reach Facebook had. Any social media company that was going to be jumping into the payment space was likely going to be making some people nervous. Later in the month, Ethereum got back on track by sharing some developments with the industry in terms of its growth. On June 28th, the network reached 1 million daily transactions for the first time since May of 2018. More and more of these transactions were the result of the growing list of dApps or decentralized applications that were being launched on Ethereum. As the summer progressed, things were looking better on all fronts. Bitcoin had doubled in price since the spring, reaching the $10,000 mark. The fall brought more big institutional news, and on September 22nd, we finally saw the outcome of a lot of hard work and promises that were made over a year ago. Bakkt, the digital asset platform that was launched by the owners of the New York Stock Exchange, was finally ready to debut their Bitcoin futures market. This was groundbreaking because Bakkt represented Bitcoin's first fully regulated, physically settled, and institutionally focused futures market. If anyone was skeptical about Bitcoin's ability to break into the world of traditional finance, they pretty much had to admit it was happening now, lest they be accused of being in complete and utter denial. October brought some news that very much cut like a double-edged sword. On October 9th, the IRS, or Internal Revenue Service, released updated guidance on how cryptocurrency transactions would be taxed. On one hand, a lot of people that got involved in cryptocurrency did it at least in part due to the wish to have the government less involved in their lives. On the other hand, with the IRS providing clarity on reporting requirements around crypto taxation, it also meant that the blockchain space was being legitimized and treated like everything else. Only 2 days later, on October 11th, something even bigger went down. The SEC issued a restraining order against Telegram, the messaging giant. Telegram was conducting an ICO of their token called Gram, which would run on the Telegram Open Network, or TON. The SEC claimed that the sale violated several rules due to their belief that the token was an unregistered security. This halted the launch of their blockchain, putting the entire project, including the recently conducted token sale, into question. And a few weeks later, on October 24th, the industry got one of the best possible endorsements you could ever ask for from a very unlikely source. The president of China, Xi Jinping, declared that his country should seize the opportunity by adopting blockchain technology. These were the first recorded statements that the president had made on the subject, and it led to a surge in interest and investment into blockchain projects all around China. There was now a belief that the Chinese government was going all in on crypto, and savvy investors wanted to be front and center to take advantage of the opportunities that would inevitably appear. In November, we got to see another glimpse of what we now know was a sleeping giant. Over 3,000 dApps were active within the blockchain ecosystem at this point. And where did most of those dApps live? On Ethereum. DeFi, or decentralized finance, would go on to become a massive sector within crypto over the coming years, being propelled by smart contract blockchains like Ethereum and Solana. And we got a taste of what was to come when the crypto world did this industry-wide dApp headcount in November. To further illustrate this point, on November 25th, it was reported that the total number of Ether locked up in DeFi apps had reached 2.7 million. Given that the price of Ether was around $150 at the time, that's a serious amount of money locked up in DeFi apps despite the poor market conditions. Before the year closed out, another sector within crypto made its presence felt, a sector that would go on to become one of the very biggest in all of blockchain. I'm talking about the metaverse. On December 5th, the Sandbox, a blockchain-based metaverse built on Ethereum, conducted their very first land pre-sale event. Just 1 year prior, the Sandbox had been acquired by Animoca Brands, a gaming software turned venture capital company that is very active in the Web3 space. This was Animoca's big metaverse play, and the initial land pre-sale was the world's first opportunity to get involved via the Sandbox. The sale was a smashing success, selling out over 3,000 land parcels in just 4 hours. This is all the proof needed that there was a very real growing appetite for this kind of offering, one that would have NFTs or non-fungible tokens as the centerpiece. As for Bitcoin and Ethereum, well, they were still recovering from the epic fireworks session that was the 2017 bull market. Bitcoin ended the year trading in the $7,000 US range, while Ether was still stuck in the $100 US range. These price levels wouldn't last forever though. In fact, this is one of the final opportunities that people had to get a bag of each of them. Why? Well, with all the developments over the past few years with clear regulations, better on and off ramps via exchanges, and innovations like stablecoins, DeFi, and the metaverse, a new bull market was brewing. No one was prepared for what happened in 2020, predominantly because it broke all kinds of records. And of course, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in the next episode within our series, so be sure to check out the story of crypto in 2020. I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.